They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Loan you that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Program to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed. Disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
So we, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Tonight on Rogueways, we are double blessed to receive wisdom and compassion-filled stories of contact from beyond the veil of life and death as we welcome back to the show author, historian, and ghost hunter Keriann Flanagan. And she brings back with her on her return to Rogueways her esteemed colleague and psychic medium and ghost hunter, Joe Giaquinto. This pair warms my heart as they travel around and bring the truth of our soul's continued existence beyond death to so many and remind us all of what really matters here on Earth. Keriann and Joe, welcome to Rogueways, and how are you guys doing tonight?
Hello, Lindsay. It's great to be back on the show. What was it, a couple months now? We did a whole episode on the work that I do, and I said next time we have to get Joe on. So
and here I am. I'm right from the other side of the, and thank you for inviting me on. It's great. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm so excited too. I know we brought a lot of evidence we get to share with people and good stories, and it's that time of year. We're ready for that.
Yes,
but before we jump into that, I do want to tell people out there that we have Content Safe is our friend here on the show. If you're into podcasting, multi-platform video hosting is made easy by Content Safe, so go check them out. And of course, support what you love. If you love Rogueways, you find value here. You can share value back in so many ways. You can go to rogueways.org. You can grab my books. I'll channel an inscription just for you if you buy it from me. I have Orgone there for you. I do one-on-one sessions with people of spiritual work, guidance, and healing. And also you can get a membership on rockfin.com/rogueways. You can get a membership. You get exclusive content there. Subscribestar.com/rogue-ways. We got exclusive content there and perks for people. And also on rogue.locals.com is a nice place to hang out. There's a community there. We can share anything we like. And there are also exclusive content there. So I also, of course, is on rogueways.thinkific.com, by the way, if you want to take a course learning about any of the things I do. And all of this is on rogueways.org, so you can find it there. Super appreciate all of you in the audience out there. You guys are the best. I'm so glad to have you here. And so, Keriann and Joe, back to you guys. And Joe, I think we lost your video. I don't know what happened.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe your camera went off again.
It's the spirits.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Well, we were trying to figure out what's going on with Keriann's video too.
I'm a little fuzzy. They
I'm a little orange and you're a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
Am I here though? Am I here?
You're here.
Keriann, remember? Oh, you can't see me.
No. Well, maybe Keriann can and I can. Oh, you know what?
Yeah,
everyone but me can see you, so we're good.
Keriann, let me know. Keriann, remember the time I put the veil when we were doing the radio show?
Yes. Every once in a while.
Disappeared. All right, so you guys let me know if I disappear because I can't tell.
I can see you. You're just a little fuzzy though. You're a little fuzzy.
It's only to me.
Spirits, stop messing around with the video.
Yeah, come on. Well, we'll get to the pointless question of that episode. Maybe if the spirits are here, they want to share, they can find a way to do their answer to the pointless question as well. But I wanted to ask each of you what your favorite thing is about autumn, because we're just 2 days away from autumn. It's finally here. I'm so excited. Joe, why don't you share with us your favorite thing about autumn?
Sure. Well, I would say what Chief Rivas of the Selcott Indian tribe said when we sat on her medicine wheel blanket. She said that one of the things about the season, you're changing from one part of the year to another, and everything's kind of in harmony and balance. So I like the idea that fall represents the coming of the holiday season. It's exciting, but it also represents the cycle of life and death, that the trees start changing colors and they give this beautiful fall color. And I think it's sort of a a reminder that life moves on, that every year we go forward and we have to continue our mission, our life, and keep going, you know.
Well said. Very appropriate for the topics of the show we're going to be talking about too. I love that answer. What about you, Keriann?
For me, it's a little bit harder to answer because I have to admit I am a summer person, and at the end of the summer, I take it very bad going into.
Did
the
you?
fall
I didn't know that,
season.
Keriann.
Oh yes, it's traumatic for me. I do not like the end of the summer. I do not like the beginning of the fall, but I've learned to embrace it because I do like things like cozy sweaters and the fireplace, apple picking, going to wineries and sitting out in the crisp fall weather. Candles,
Halloween.
pumpkin smelling things.
Yeah.
But I was going to say probably my favorite thing has got to be Halloween. It's always been a big event in my household, and so I would say probably the thing that I look forward to the most is Halloween itself.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, all those things. Everything you stole all my answers. So it's very good. I actually miss where I'm at. We don't really get the big.
You don't have fall, right?
We have fall, but it's not. We don't have like a lot of the leaves that get to fall. And I used to love just jumping and laying in the leaf pile. I don't even know if I would do that as an adult, but I still would like the opportunity at least. So
yeah, where are you guys? Are you out west or down south?
I'm in the Colorado Springs.
Oh, well, that's it. You've got some beautiful,
the aspens.
Aspens, yeah.
Yeah, so we get good colors. We just when I was young, I lived near like maple trees and oak trees, and we had all these beautiful like giant leaves and piles of them, and you don't really see that here.
Exactly. Yeah, we have a lot of that here on Long Island. So
yeah, does it get gloomy up there in Long Island?
Does it get what?
Is that gloomy? Is
gloomy?
that part of why it's not just that it's colder, it's like there's less sun?
Yeah, that bothers me, the lack of sunlight. By the time December comes, we have darkness at 6 a.m. and darkness again at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, pitch black.
Yes.
So,
I lived in California for a while, and I remember I used to go to one town that was near the foothills because it was the only place that seemed like it was back in the Northeast. They had trees and people had lawns. It wasn't just palm trees. It was like oak trees and stuff. And I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, those big old trees are really nice. Well, I'm glad fall is here. I'm glad we're all at least in partial agreement about all the good things about fall.
Yes.
And yeah, Keriann, we were talking that you'd just been on a few months ago. Is there anything that has been happening since then that you want to share with us? And then whether or not there is, I would also love to hear what it is you love working about Joe and why you brought him back with you.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, the summer again is my favorite time of year, so that is my time to take off from work. But I've been very busy the whole month of September because I am going back on book tour starting October 3rd, going until November 6th. We have 16 events, and this is for my latest book, Haunted Long Island Mysteries. As I mentioned on the show the last time, I'm the author of 9 books, mainly nonfiction. 4 of them are ghost related, which I have been, having Joe work with me on those over the years. And so it's always an exciting time, even though the book came out last year. We were still in like semi-COVID, so half the events were in person, half were still through Zoom. So this is finally a bit of more normalcy, I guess I can say, that they're all in-person events. So I'm really excited to go back and do that. And the majority of the lectures are with Joe, and I do them solo, but it is more fun with Joe because he brings a whole other aspect to it with our PowerPoint presentation, as well as the playing of EVPs, which we're going to hopefully play some for you tonight. And so I've been basically working on getting things ready for that fall book tour. And if anyone is interested in learning more about it or the work I do, you can visit my website at www.KeriannFlanaganBrosky.com. If you can't spell that, you can go to www.ghostsoflongisland.com, and you could see where I will be speaking. And on my website also will have all of the list of events. And I actually started working with Joe. What was it now, Joe? 16, 17 years ago?
Yeah, 18 going on 18.
Yeah. So at the time, I had written 2 books on Huntington's history, and I was looking to get involved in another book project. And my father had passed, and I was having a very difficult time dealing with the grief of that. I was in my 30s, and my father was only 60. He just turned a month before his 63rd birthday. He passed away. So it was my husband that had said to me, "Why don't you get involved in another book project?" And my earlier books all had to do with teaching people about local history, since I am a historian. But when you're researching older homes and things, there always seems to be a ghost story that comes in with it. So I was doing extensive lecturing within the town of Huntington. That's what the books were based on. Now my books encompass all of Long Island. And so I was asked by the Huntington Historical Society, where I was first vice president for 6 years, if I could maybe take some of the stories that had a ghost story or two in it and put a lecture together. Now, they weren't ghost books like I've written since then, but as I said, sometimes you come across these things during research. So I said, sure. There was about maybe 4 or 5 stories that I made a lecture with, and we had it in a historic barn that's owned by the Huntington Historical Society. And so many people said they loved it. And they said, "Why don't you write a book just about ghosts?" And I said, well, I wanted to be taken serious as both a journalist and a historian. I didn't want to be considered a ghostbuster, so to speak. And even though it was something that always interested me, I did a lot of research on my own. I felt like I needed something else. I needed a paranormal investigator. And where would I find someone like that? Well, as luck would have it, one year when I was, I don't even remember, what was the year, Joe?
2005.
Yeah, 05. And I was in the Conklin barn, and all of a sudden in walks Joe Giaquinto, who happened to be a paranormal investigator. And it was at that point too, which was interesting, that he was developing his mediumship. And I usually am very thorough about checking people out, and especially if I'm going to be working with them. But it must have been, I think, maybe even my father from the other side telling me, he's the one to work with. And after the lecture, I asked him right on the spot, because he had introduced himself to me, if he would work with me on a ghost-related project that had a historical slant. And what was good about Joe, too, is that he was involved with the Hampton Bays Historical Society. So I knew that he had an understanding of history and respect for it. And we started working together right away. So, but what happened, Joe? I mean, you could talk about the next part. After I had asked him, I came home. So I was like, oh my God. I said to my husband, I said, I don't even know this guy. He could be the axe murderer for all I know. And so, Joe, you could explain what happened.
And I never even thought about that. Never even gave it a thought. You asked me, and for me, that was a big decision too. So it would formalize what I had been doing as sort of a like almost a hobby. And so the next day she made me go to the coffee shop in Huntington, and she says, "Now look, I want to ask you one question. Is your head going to turn around 180 degrees like in The Exorcist?" I said, "Listen, that would be very painful. It will not happen. It never has." And anyway, the interesting thing was, after the event, my sister had just moved from one place in Huntington to another. She moved to West Neck. And they had neighbors that were friends of theirs from the old neighborhood. So when I got to my sister's house, I wasn't even really sure where it was. It was at night, and I found the street, and I knocked on the door, and my sister didn't answer the door. Her friends did. And they said, "Joe, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, hi, Ed. Hi, Pat. How you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm in town to see this Keriann lady doing this Halloween lecture." And she said, "Keriann Brosky?" I said, "Yeah, do you know her?" She says, "Yeah, she's one of our friends." So my sister was friends with Ed and Pat. Ed and Pat were friends with Keriann, but neither of them knew each other. I didn't know either of them. I mean, at the time. So it was really meant to be. I mean, when you get these concurrent, sort of these coincidental things, it's not just luck or randomness. There is a flow, there's a current to what we do. And that the team, we come here as spirits, as teams of souls, and we find each other in the life cycle, and then we work together. So it's our time, right, Keriann? Start
Yeah,
turning
it
to
is.
work on
And we've
ghost
been
books.
exactly, and we've been working together ever since. So basically, if people
Yeah.
want to know, like, how do we do this? I do all of the research. I do the writing of the books. And when Joe and I first started working together, we went out and figured out how we were going to conduct this. So we would both go to, let's say it was a restaurant that was presumably haunted. We would go when the restaurant was closed, and we would meet with the owners of the restaurant, to give you an example. Joe and I would both have the recorders going. He would be recording, as would I. Now, my purposes would be to conduct the interview, to get the information needed from them on a recording, because again, this is going into a book, so you want everything to be as accurate as possible. Now, Joe is recording it because he was listening for EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon.
Can I?
And when
Yeah,
we first
I
started,
just.
go ahead, Joe.
Okay. I just want to chime in.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what an EVP was at the time. I went to Raynham Hall with what became my group, my ghost hunting group. Originally, I was just a newbie in it. You know, I just started, and we went into Raynham Hall in Oyster Bay, and somebody said you should record EVPs. I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, sometimes the ghosts, they leave you voices on your tape recorder." So I took a tape recorder with me and I turned it on, and I said, "If anyone's here want to talk to me, you know, I'm Joe Giaquinto, like Big Shot, right?" And I had I had a dozen of these EVPs, and so again, when I met Keriann, I kind of had a sense of what they were, and that was my
Yeah.
job.
And
That
he
was
was
one of my
telling me
roles.
about it. And he was telling
But
me
you
about
really
it,
didn't
and he had
believe
asked
me.
me. I didn't, and I love to tell the story because he asked me. He said, "Well, what are you going to be using to record the interviews?" And I basically, actually, I think I have my right here, one of these little guys, okay, from Radio Shack. Yep.
Yep.
And so Joe says I have the same one, and he actually said to me, he says, "Well, don't be surprised if the spirits leave a couple of words or a sentence on your recorder." And I looked at him and I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, it's a phenomenon. It's called EVPs. I had never heard of them before." And he said that there are 3 classes, A, B, and C, A being the most audible. Now, I was open to a lot of things, but honestly, at the time, I thought that this was kind of over the top, and I didn't really believe it. So on our very first assignment, we were in a home in Huntington's, in Greenlawn. We were supposed to be interviewing a couple who lived in Huntington Station who had a lot of activity in the house. Now, this was our very first assignment, and Joe was coming from Hampton Bays. So those of you who know Long Island, that's all the way out east. So it was a distance. And we had horrible weather. It was like a nor'easter or something, and he was going to be delayed. And it was fine because this wasn't an investigation. He was going to actually just observe me, how I was conducting the interviews. So we were in Joe wasn't there. So I was in a large living room with this couple. And if you could picture it, there was 2 like large love seats. And in between them was a very large square table. Okay. So there was a good distance between where I was sitting and where they were sitting together. And I had the recorder in the center of the table. And I had my questions prepared, and I started asking them, the different things. And by the time I was finished with the interview, Joe had showed up. We talked a little bit more, but I didn't have the recorder on. About 2 weeks later, I was playing it back. One of the tedious aspects of the work I do is that everything has to be transcribed by hand because I have to be able to hear it and everything. So it's back and forth writing this. Well, you would know the difference if someone had a recorder, let's say from a distance, like over here, if I could demonstrate, as opposed to holding it right up to your mouth. You would be able to hear that if I played it back. I'm hearing these people. And again, this is not a house that had any activity. And there was no children. There was no television set on, no radio, nothing, just them and me. And when I played it back halfway through the interview, probably about a half hour into it, you hear the voice of a little girl saying, "Hold me," in a loud whisper, as if she took that recorder and brought it to her mouth and started speaking. So I contacted Joe, and I played it for my husband first. He was scared out of his mind. And I almost fell off my chair hearing it myself. And I figured out how to send it to Joe through an email attachment. And he said, "Congratulations, you got your first Class A EVP." And it was as if that had to have happened, because if it didn't, in working with Joe, I probably would have always second guessed it, thinking it was something that he was doing. So that's how it got started with my understanding with the EVP. So getting back to what I was saying before, to give you an example, if we were at a restaurant, let's say, so Joe and I would go in, I would have my recorder going, he would have his. Joe was primarily looking for those white noise EVPs at the time. What ended up happening with the next ghost book is that I was starting to get EVPs during my interviews on mine. So that we had a little competition. Joe is still the expert here, but I had gotten some really good EVPs, which I think Joe's going to play for you in a little while. But that's one aspect of it. After we do the interview, I try also not to tell Joe too much information, because as the books have evolved, his mediumship has evolved. And we've used that as a tool, which we didn't have in the beginning. So we'll go around now. We use minimal equipment. We have our cameras. I use a Nikon D80 professional camera and a Nikon Coolpix, which I use to get like orb photos. And Joe photographs as well, because he also has gotten orbs and apparitions and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you know, we'll talk to the people a little bit more. Joe will give his impressions. What we do with this latest book, Haunted Long Island Mysteries, is we've used what's called a ghost box, but I'm going to let Joe explain that in a minute. But basically, once we leave the place, that's when I start doing my research, start going through my photographs, and then Joe goes back to his studio and starts the whole process of going through looking for the EVP. So it's definitely, I mean, each book has had anywhere from 18 to 30 stories. So it's very time consuming for each story. It's like writing its own little book, because the amount of research that needs to be done and everything on Joe's end, trying to look for these EVPs. But people love it, and it's worked, and we have lectured together for years, and we try to be very entertaining and fun when we do this work. And as Joe always says, we like to take the creepiness out of what television shows us. You know, Joe and I are regular people. When we've gone to these places to investigate it, we've had people in the early days say, wow, you two don't look like Ghostbusters. Or they've said to me, we expected Elvira and you're a soccer mom. And so our work has really taken on a whole new level. It's also, besides our wanting to promote local history in the hopes of preserving it and teaching, you know, the public about it, what better way than through a ghost story. It's also evolved into very spiritual for us, because we concentrate on the positive aspects of spiritual communication, and we don't do anything that's demonic in nature or negative in nature. So we have very positive experiences, especially with Joe's mediumship now. We've been able to connect with the other side and get answers from people who have recently died and people from history. So it's we really had a journey, right, Joe? I mean, I don't know what, if there's something you want to add to that, because it's really has evolved.
Yeah, I think that I agree with everything you said. For me, it's been great because I've been able to develop my skills and use them. So I wrote an article not too long ago for a spiritual magazine where I talked about the difference between ghost busting and mediumship. And I use that term loosely. You know, it's ghost hunting, paranormal. I was a member of the American Society of Psychic Research for several years in New York. Been on maybe over 200 ghost hunts, maybe more, I don't know. I stopped counting. It's been about 40 years plus. But, you know, doing this work, it's nice because I go in as a problem solver. So Keriann says, you know, come on to this house or this location. What do you feel? And often we get a lot of extra stuff that we didn't plan on getting. Some very funny stuff, because the spirit world is fun. It's not creepy. I mean, there are people who agree and they have tragedy and they might be mad at you, or you may get bumps in the night, you know, knocks on the wall. But generally, or 2x4 falling, right, Carrie, at the Mountain House. Yes. but generally, it's really positive, and we give an opportunity to get messages through and to preserve the history that they no longer can actively do because they don't have a body. They're incorporeal now. So we act as sort of a messenger. And Keriann will tell you, I don't want to throw the spotlight back to her, but she could tell you about all our spirit friends that follow her around now, even insist on what book cover to use. So like William Sidney Mount, right? And I've got, a couple spirit guides that I work with that follow me around and I utilize, and it's really fun. But I think it is a journey, and I know George. I always ask this question when we do the Ghost Box: is George Washington following us around? I'm sure he does, because we do. Like you've seen that show Turn about the cult perspiring and everything. We've done so much research and been in so many of the homes that were involved in aspiring. We've been out to East Setauket. We've been out to the different Thompson House, the Brewster House. Yeah, that's right. Everywhere. So it's great. It's a real rush, a real ride, and it's fun, and it keeps getting better.
Yeah, it really does. It keeps getting better. And when people say, "Oh, well, aren't you afraid of talking to these spirits?" And I love how Joe always puts it that, well, if you think of them as someone's grandfather or aunt or uncle, they're just people. I think we as humans try to make them out that they're like, I don't know, these
like zombies
super
or something.
beings or zombies. And
no, they're just people.
And they're people past.
They're all the moms and dads and their moms and dads who've passed. Now, are there dark entities out there? Are there people that are evil that pass, like evil people? Sure, but most people are good. So there's no logical reason why, when your grandfather passes, he becomes this evil zombie creature. No, he's still your grandfather. He's still got his personality, still got his baggage, and he still loves you. And that's why we try to get those on those messages. Want me to talk about the Ghost Box? So the Ghost Box is.
I just want to comment how much I love. I know I kind of said it in the intro, but how much I love that about you too, that you have this respect, that you bring in this compassion for these people, because they are people, like you said.
Right.
And I just think that's really important. And I feel like you're offering therapy to those who have passed and to people who are still alive.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah, it's true. And there's a lot of humor. For example, we were at Denise Shepherd. What house was that?
The Oyster Bay Historical Society. That was the Earl Whiteman House.
Earl Whiteman House. So just an example. We have other things we're going to play, but there's one part in there where she's talking about restoring the original shingles on the house. Now they had a restoration done. Shingles really weren't right. The ones they want, they have to be handmade, and it takes time. They got to get permits, they got to get grants and all this stuff. So it's a very bureaucratic, very long drawn out process. So during the Ghost Box session, basically the spirits said to us over the radio, they said, you're taking too long to do this. And she says, well, it's this, we have to get the approval and all. And I turned to the spirits. I turned to the Ghost Box and I say, politics, my friends. And then suddenly this loud booming voice says, oh, sure. From the spirit, from the God. Because
we have a lot of fun. Yeah.
We have a lot of fun, and they know that, and they follow us around. And I find the more we do this, the better we get. And I don't mean just like, we do a better job and we entertain people. I mean, we know each other, and the spirits, what happens is they know when we turn that recorder on, they're ready. They know how we want to talk. And a very key thing is when you do mediumship or ghost hunting, paranormal research, whatever you do, just being intuitive, you have to tell the spirits how you want to talk to them. Most people think, oh, you just wait to see what comes in, but you don't know how they're invisible. You don't know how they're going to talk. You don't know if they're visual, audio. So which explain, and that's what we do. We have a very simple, very straightforward communication system that we use every time, and they know it. So it gets better as we go, right, Keriann?
And I just want to add to that, because
Sure.
people will say, well, how come negative entities? We're very careful. We're also very firm in our own faith. And so we're very careful with opening up that circle. Joe does that for us and making sure we don't let in anything that's negative. And on a lot of the shows, like people say, you watch the shows, you see them screaming, come out, we need proof, we need evidence. We're not trying to prove or disprove anything. We're just trying to communicate. And I never thought that the books would actually help people understand life and death, and that life does exist after this one. And you know, sometimes people think, oh, well, if you communicate with them, that it means that they're just sort of in limbo, floating, that they're not supposed to be where they are. And for me, I believe in heaven. I was born and raised Catholic. I'm a practicing Catholic, so that's what my belief is. But what people don't realize is that you can go in between those worlds. It's not as far as you think it is. And that's why communication is possible. It used to be, if let's say you saw your grandfather or had some kind of experience, you would say, oh my gosh, he didn't make it to the other side. Well, that's not the case. Are there spirits that haven't crossed? Yes. And usually that's by their own choosing. And so in the books, we have actually used a listing, and I think I mentioned this on the last show, that was put together by a very famous paranormal investigator from London, England, named Peter Underwood. And he actually put together a list of the 10 types of ghosts. And as Joe and I have done, I mean, at this point, Joe, it's well over 100 places that we've investigated. We see how Peter Underwood's list really works with what we've done. Sometimes it's not a person. Sometimes it's residual energy that is left behind. Sometimes it's a modern ghost that has died tragically that didn't get to say goodbye to his loved one. So before going to heaven, they pass through to say goodbye. So there's all sorts of things. And Joe and I, when we lecture, we explain this. And we also go over the difference between what a ghost is and what a spirit is. A ghost is more place-centered when they choose not to cross over. Joe and I do not do that. People ask us, oh, do you help spirits, people who have died, cross over to the other side? And that's something that we don't do. But we have this communication. And again, we treat them like people. We keep everything positive, and we've had very good, experiences and very positive experiences.
Good results, yeah.
And I think we lost you on the screen there on Joe. I don't see you now. But
yeah, I heard your voice got fuzzy. The spirits, they're listening too. They're draining. Stop. You gotta get your own camera.
Yeah, I don't see.
Let me
face
it is
point.
still
hang on a
streaming.
second.
It is still streaming
it's still
to the.
It's
there we
yeah,
go.
we're still.
There we
I
go.
can hear you. Yeah, I'll do. If that happens again, let me know, and I'll just click the camera on and off.
Now you're frozen. So technology. They don't. Well, the other thing is they mess around with our equipment.
I have a lot of spirits. I have a lot of energy around me. Just so you know.
Yeah,
this
and that's why I rely. Yeah, and I rely on Joe for some of that energy. So if we are in a situation where Joe thinks that the energy is not good, or that there is something that is negative in nature, he will tell me. And I think it's only happened once or twice where he says, okay, this is not good. We need to leave this area. So I rely on Joe and what he picks up from
Can you
that.
see me now, guys?
Yeah, in fact, even when we can't see you, the audience can. So
okay.
It's always good.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
But as Joe mentioned, I know you want to get into that a little bit, Joe, because it really has evolved what we've done with EVPs. So if you want to maybe tell the audience how we started off with the white, first with the white noise EVPs,
sure,
and what the difference is and what we were getting with that and how it's evolved into the ghost box.
Sure, I'm going to use a little different explanation tonight, Keriann, because it's such a cool thing to talk about. So the white noise EVP, the reason they call it white is because there's different kind of noises, and one of them, white noise, is the ambient noise of the room. It's just a very simple noise, like the sound of a ceiling fan, or the wind, or the water rushing, or taking a shower, having the water come out of the shower head. So this white noise, if you think of a radio station like a sine wave, so what happens is the radio station, like this podcast, they transmit out a signal, and the other end there's a receiver. So what the spirits do is they take this wave of noise, this background sound, and they throw energy on it to create vocal sound, words. And so noise is basically a noise wave with sound waves embedded on it. And what we do is when we take the noise out, hopefully you're left with the voice of the spirit. So it's a branch of science called ITC, which is something like inter-trans communication or something like that. And it's basically the science of how spirits monkey around with electronic devices to talk to us. Now, the ghost box is really cool. The ghost box was just a transistor radio that you would cut a couple of wires. And what would happen is when you scan from one station to another, the scanner doesn't stop at the station. It keeps going. So it stops and goes, stops and goes. The spirits monkey with both the white noise between the stations, that's static, as well as the voice from people on the air, like talk shows, news anchors, weather reporters, and things. And what they do is they choose the words, the allophones, the piece words, the vowels, the consonants, to put together sentences live time while we're doing our question and answer with the spirits. So, for example, let's say the weatherman on, the station is saying, tomorrow's gonna be a beautiful day, right? And I say, what's heaven like? They will stop the scanning right at the point where the guy says, beautiful. So you hear, hi spirits, what's the weather, what's heaven like? They say, beautiful. And we have actually, I have an EVP like that where we did ask what heaven was like, and they said, beautiful. We said, how do you guys feel? And they said, perfect. And it's great because we've now gotten to the point where it's investigations for the books. We got the original, not the edited down versions because we have space constraints on the website, but we have ghost box recordings that go 9 minutes. And it's interesting, and I'm not demeaning the shows that are on the air, but I do sort of more of a radical thing. I don't say, well, I got this whispery sound, it's got to be perfect. It's a 2-second sound by a spirit talking. I want to see the whole conversation. And so I take the sound file, the recording back, and I edit out all the dead air and I boost up all the voice that I can get. And you could see, and the spirits know it, that we're going to ask a question and then we leave them a space, we don't say anything and let them answer, and there's the answer. So you can see the decibel, you can see the peaks and valleys of the voice on the waveforms. Talk where, well, here's our voice, say at 10 decibels, for example, and then you'll see the spirit voice is right, maybe 5, or maybe sometimes it's 15. So you could see that, and it's very reliable. So anyway, the ghost box basically is a updated version of the white noise recorder where you actually have voice from online talk shows and things that they can use to talk and morph into their own answers to us. Is that?
How
Yeah.
cool.
It's
Yeah.
fun. It's fun.
It really is. And you figure
Play some of these.
Yeah, we're going to play some of these, but when we go to places, sometimes the owners of these places, they always are like skeptical, or they say, well, I've been experiencing
Sure.
things, I don't know why. When they've experienced the ghost box, we've made believers out of people. And
Yeah.
we had one person at a very small restaurant in Riverhead. He was
Riverhead?
really skeptical, at the Farm Country Kitchen. And he was so amazed, he called his wife. He says, you have to come down here and hear this. And once she came, it started turning in a different direction. It started becoming more of a personal type reading, which of course we didn't play for audiences. We let them hear it. But they were absolutely amazed. And at one point he asked how many people were in the restaurant downstairs, and we got an answer. And I think it was 21, and it was correct. He went down and counted, and there were 21 people. So, or it was off by 1. So it's amazing. So it's not something that only we can hear. The people that we interview experience it firsthand. Where with the white noise EVPs, we don't know if we have any until we start going through the recording process.
Yeah.
And see if it's
And
there. So that's the difference.
Yeah, and I want to say that when you hear some of these recordings, the ghost box recordings, you'll hear me repeat what I heard either through mental mediumship or actually heard coming over the loudspeaker of the radio, because I want to validate that what I heard. And when I was using the white noise recorders prior to the ghost box, I remember doing a sort of a semi-reading off, impromptu reading for at the Orient Church, Keriann. We were doing a ghost investigation there early on, and this this kid wanted to channel his karate instructor who had tragically died, got hit by a car. And it was interesting because I didn't have the benefit of the ghost box where you heard the voices. I had the white noise recorder going, and I said, well, I think she said yes, or I think this or that. And when I play it back, right before, a second or two before I said yes, you heard a female voice say yes. So it was actually interesting because they always say, well, if it goes to the recorder, you can't hear it. And I don't believe that. I think if they want Keriann and I to hear something, they're going to find for us to hear it, either on the recording or we'll hear it with our own ears. In fact, when we're at the Brewster house and you hear this ghost box recording, they say the ring. They're talking about the culprit spy ring, and Keriann says, "I heard the ring," and then they say, "Cool." Remember? And you said, "Yeah, I heard that. Cool."
I know.
So it'll be fun
Yeah.
to play that.
It's fun. The other thing is that with the books, we say that they're interactive because in the beginning of it, I think in my author's note, I say that you can read along with the stories and listen to the EVPs. So, you know, a lot of people get bored with straight history. So the books are nonfiction, obviously, but they actually read like a work of fiction because I put in whole conversations of Joe and I talking to these people and getting their reactions. And then we put the actual transcript of the EVPs in the book so you can read them. But now in the books, you can get my website and, you know, it's listed in there. You can go onto the website and where you click on Historic Haunts of Haunted Long Island Mysteries, or my other one, which is Historic Haunts of Long Island, it will take you to EVPs to Joe's page, and you could actually listen to them. You know, so we'll see how you hear them tonight, but if you have trouble hearing them, do go onto my website, which will bring you to Joe's website. And if you have a headset or something, that's the best way to
better
listen
with
to
a
them.
headset.
Yeah. When we lecture, we play them during our PowerPoint presentations for live audiences. And when we first started doing this, I looked at Joe and I said, well, if they don't hear it, we're really screwed. I said, because they're going to think we're insane. But the reactions that we get, we really fill a room when we play these because people do hear it, and we keep the transcript up so people could read along. So, Joe, did you have some samples? Did you want to play some white noise? Because
do you want to do the
difference?
Yeah, do you want to do the photos? Because the order I have, I thought we'd progress.
Oh, you want to do the photos first? Okay.
What is Lindsay? Is that all right? Or what do you want to proceed?
What do you have up first? Yeah, because we do. That's the other aspect is we do get some incredible photos. We get a lot of orb photos, and we have some apparitions.
Yeah, and I want to say so that to give you a setup on the photos here. The first one is the orbs Keriann at the Brewster house up in the attic.
Okay.
So that'll be 01. And
can we bring that up?
This?
We're just seeing the overall computer screen. Can you bring up enlarge each one?
you got the display of the files there. So just
oh, well, how annoying. Let me change this around.
Keriann, do you want us to both narrate this? Like, do you want to talk about the orb photo? I'll tell you what you got, and then I also got Becca's orb on the green orb, and then the ectoplasm and a okay, there it is. You want to do that one?
So I'll start off with this one. This is in Setauket. This is the Brewster house, and it's a very small building that was never known to have any ghosts in it. We were actually doing this prior to this last book. We were asked by the president and director of the Ward Melville Heritage Organization if we could check it out. So Joe and I were going around the first floor. It's a very tiny building. It goes back to the Revolutionary War. And we weren't really getting anything. We did get some EVPs, but we went up to this attic, which we know probably had a lot of people in at one point. And we were both photographing, getting nothing. And so I said very nicely, I said, spirits, I know you're here. And I explained basically what we were doing. I said, we're using this for educational purposes to prove the existence of spirits and that you're able to manipulate technical equipment in order to show that you're here. I said, we just have a few minutes of your time? And if you could give us some orbs, we'd appreciate it. And next thing you know, this whole thing started lighting up and I was getting them and Joe, and it lasted about 30 seconds. And then all of a sudden we had nothing. So people that say, oh, well, it's a dust particle. Well, A dust particle doesn't. A dust particle will stay in the same picture, in the same frame, every single picture you take until you clean the lens. These, when you compare them to Joe's pictures and other ones of mine, they're all over the place. They're moving around. They're also translucent. They're very different than dust particles.
Dust
so
would be,
here, there's
dust
a
is
ton.
solid matter, so you wouldn't see through it.
Right. And here, there's a ton of orbs up here in this attic. And
they literally appear and then disappear as well, right? You have pictures
yep.
without
And we
them.
have another frame that all you see, you don't see anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's a cool
all
one. So
very
the
good
next
points.
one, number 2 is Becca's orb. You want to talk about that, Keriann?
Yeah, this one actually wasn't photographed by either one of us. This was someone else that we became friends with, who knew Rebecca. This is Rebecca's mother riding. And Rebecca, this is more of a modern story. She passed away in 2016 in a tragic horseback riding accident. She was very high up, almost on her way to the Olympics. That's how good she was. And she had a tragic accident, and her mother actually watched her bleed out in the ring. It was horrible. But her mother always senses her around. And so this photo was taken during the daytime, and that's a big green orb, and you could see how it's translucent over her, and it's just it's remarkable.
Wow.
And it's just the size of it was just how Rebecca's energy was, and the fact that it's encompassing her mother's head, is interesting as well.
Yeah, I found that interesting. Yeah. They're very similar too. They're both.
Yeah, exactly. She's a very good communicator.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, and the next one is this one, Keriann. I love this one.
This one wasn't anything for the book, I believe, because I spent many years just studying orbs, and I believe I took this one out in North Carolina. And not only do you see the orbs, this was a completely clear evening. So what you see there is, we like to call it ectoplasm for lack of a better word. I don't want it to sound too ghostbustery.
I thought that was smoking a cigar or something.
No, there was no one else there.
The Milky Way galaxy. I know.
It was not a cloud. It wasn't anything. So you have this formation, and again, the next frame that I took, I had some orbs, but I didn't have that whole mass in there. It's fascinating. And some of these probably aren't coming up as clear on the computer screen, but when I photographed and I compare the orbs, blow them up, orbs, like people, are all different. Some have speckled, totally speckled. Some have rings, some have faces. And there's one in particular that I've gotten no matter where I've been. I could be on Long Island, Florida, North Carolina. And I believe that could be my dad, making his presence known. So just like people, every orb is different. But this was a very unique photograph.
This is amazing to me as well, because not only did I really think that was smoke from a cigar, but you can actually see, and I hope people can see it when they're watching this as well, that there's rainbow colored kind of edging to all of this. It's like prismatic. Which is, and one of these orbs here, right here, if you can see where my mouse is going, that one I can actually see the
two
face
of them.
and the head inside of it.
Wow. It's
amazing. We get a lot
photo.
We're at we're going to be doing an event. We're at a theater, a historic theater in St. James, where they actually got a photo of, right, Keriann, of the face.
So they showed us a photo of a displaced head that's morphed onto.
Just appears in the middle of a performance.
Yeah.
Well,
all kinds of things.
Okay, and then.
Well, can I ask a question, actually, Joe?
Sure.
Do you get a sense of why this sort of ectoplasmic smoke is different than the orb? Are they traveling differently, or is it a different type of energy or entity?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I've seen orbs that actually were half materializing into an apparition. I don't have it on this tonight, but I got one from a friend of mine years ago. He used to go down to Gettysburg and just get some great photos. But I think the orb, it's just energy. It's a moving of energy. They're moving around. They're coming in to visit us. Some orbs are showing as what I call markers. The round ones, they're kind of markers that this is where they are right now. And then others are just this swirling energies moving around. It's just beautiful. It's like looking at a nebula in space. I almost wonder sometimes if the whole thing about UFOs and we see these clouds of nebulas out in space, if they're really actually, maybe they're actually formations of ectoplasm and just spiritual energy that's out there in the universe. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so. But anyway,
well, and there's even myths about that, right? When you pass, if you can go and become a star, and so I don't know. I wouldn't.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, that's why this subject is so exciting. Karen, we could talk hours on this show. We probably run out of production tape. But
Right.
all right, and then all right, let's go to the next one. Okay, this is one of mine. Now, this is at the Orient Church several years ago. We did the Orient Church. Keriann did this for the book, right? Did we do it for the book?
No, we never did it for the book.
We never did.
Yeah.
We were going to do it. But what's interesting about this is, as a medium, I sensed that there was some spiritual energy in the corner of the room by the choir balcony, which is off to the left there. And so this fellow, Caesar, he's really into orbs. So he was in my group that night and my team. And he's taking a picture trying to get an orb. And I sense this energy over there. So I took a picture of Caesar trying to get a picture of an orb. So the idea of intelligence here, that this is not a random thing, is they put an orb in front for me to see and for him to photograph. I never checked with him to see if he actually got that orb. But I just think you can't make that up. They put an orb right in front of him and for me to get. It's like, here's an example of an orb. Oh yeah, I'm the orb and here's the guy taking a picture of it. It's like a textbook example. So
yeah, that's a good one. It's a good one.
That's really cool.
Hey, Keriann, you've got a couple coming up. I did a long view of Woolworth. I think it's Woolworth Mansion. Is that, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. This was for my original Ghosts of Long Island book, and Joe was not with me for this one. I photographed the outside. I was fortunate enough to go inside, but in one of the windows appeared, I don't know, do you have the close-up shot of it, Joe?
Yeah, we do have the close-up. Okay. Yeah, a couple of these will have close-ups.
I'm trying to think, the window on the first floor on the left. There was a woman that died in this house.
Yeah, you want to move?
And yeah.
Yeah, there's another picture after this. That is the
okay,
close-up.
yeah, right there. Yeah, that.
Yeah, but I have number 6 is the actual close-up.
Okay.
Oh,
If you go to the next.
Oh wow.
There it is.
Yeah.
There she is.
Did you include in this, Joe? I didn't even ask you the Center Merchants.
Ketchum?
Yeah.
I did. That comes up.
Okay.
It's going to be Civil War, and then Center Merchants come up. So that's cool. Is that she's sitting there? She's got her dress. She's sitting out the window. Yeah.
She looks
All right. And the
perfect.
next one is one of mine. So we were at the Quaker Cemetery out in Bethpage State Park.
Yeah, this was when we first started working.
This is 2005. I was with the group. Again, I was a member of the group. I hadn't taken over the Ghost Hunt of Long Island. I took this long shot and something said something's weird. If you look at the right side of the photo there in the distance, the trees bend around in almost a locket. And you
Do you have the arrow that you could bring it?
Yeah, right there. Yeah, see how that circular, the trees, the leaves
right
bend
behind
around
the
it.
tombstones.
And there's this little thing there with there's a white thing like a beard or something.
Yeah.
So the next image is a close-up of the Civil War soldier. So there he is. You see his white beard. And if you were to zoom in, his face has a skin color, flesh color. He's wearing a hat. His hand is at his side. His coat is made of leaves. That's what they used to matrix it. He's got dark trousers. And he's got a gun belt.
Wow.
And again, the face in the flesh, if you can zoom in more, you'll see that there's a face there that is flesh colored. It's a pinkish color right above his beard.
Yeah.
So he looks like he's in reverence of maybe, and it's interesting. I took the group back there last year, and we actually met the pastor who now is doing the Quaker meetings, the services Sunday morning. And he told us that a historian told him there was actually a Civil War soldier that was buried there.
Oh, really?
They found out, even though, even though the cemetery, the age of the stones, and it didn't match the Civil War. He said there was a Civil War soldier that was buried. So
I bet there's a lot of
that's
them
kinda-
buried around in places that didn't have time or a chance, or whatever
yeah.
marker had been there got,
Yeah.
moved away.
So
Yeah. Wow.
so I like him.
I
He was
love
my
how they-
first apparition.
And they made this kind of portal or
Lock
Yeah,
it.
I know,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like an old vintage, like a Daguerre
Yeah.
Daguerre type photo or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was to
Wow.
get my attention. See.
Yeah.
Now the next
that.
one. All right, Keriann, here's yours. Did
You
we go
know,
the
yeah,
wrong-
this is from the latest book. Okay.
Oh
but
yeah,
this
yeah.
is
This is
actually
the
your
hangman, right?
this was your photograph.
Right, okay,
I had
so-
a sense that something
Yeah.
was in this cemetery in Sag Harbor. There was
Yeah.
a very famous
This is the old
battle,
burying ground.
yeah, in Sag Harbor. And I kept saying to Joe, I said, I don't know what it is. I'm photographing it, but I keep hearing that you need to photograph as well.
So I
So,
did. I got there a
you did.
little early, and I took these panoramic shots, and we kept talking, right, Keriann? We found this tree that looked like a hanging tree. The ghost box said something about a couple of people being hung. And so
Right.
we looked at this photo, and then something was like, see, if you look at that tree on the left side in the distance there, the next image zooms in. The next photo will be a zoom in, a close up of that.
Oh wow.
And there's a hanging man.
Yeah.
His hands are tied behind his back.
I was
He's got a
just gonna
bloodstained,
say that.
tattered shirt,
Yeah.
right? He's wearing a green, like a brimmed hat. His face is white, like a ghost. He's got trousers. He's got black shoes, and you see they're kicking up dust. Also, you can see a little bare kneecap there because his leg is kind of bent as he hangs.
Yeah.
And then if you look above you, around his neck, there's a black rope.
Yeah.
And there's one that goes up into the tree. There's a hanging rope.
Wow.
And some people
This-
have also said that there's another image of a person coming out of the tree itself. There's
Yeah,
a
when
head
we
that's
played
like
this, because it's large on the screen for audiences,
yeah,
and several people have mentioned that was another being morphing out, like the legs and the head
Right.
out of the tree.
which would
Wow.
which would go back to the ghost box who said in that recording that there were two people hung. So,
Right.
Wow.
but that's his. Of course, this is Matrix. The bottom of his body is actually a stone or a headstone that's in the distance, and the body itself is light coming through the trees from the sunlight. So it's amazing how they do this. I don't know if they use fractal technology or what, but they're it's just incredible.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
It's really,
It's really great. I
so
love this.
everyone we've
Fantastic.
shown this to says, "Wow, there's a guy hanging from the
Yeah.
tree."
And we have it in
So,
black and white in the book, so it really stands out.
Oh my gosh.
Now there's
I love
one
it.
more, and this is Keriann's number.
Yeah.
11,
This
I
one
think, is
was
Ketchum.
in, I think, the second of my Ghosts of Long Island series. Now we were in the Ketchum Inn, which was under restoration. It's a beautiful home. It's a big, humongous history to it. And this was an upstairs room that didn't quite have a finished ceiling. So Joe and I were limited to where we could walk around. So we were sort of pushed up against the wall that faces the street side. So I had just really basically took my camera and was shooting around the room from the same angle. And this window, I have several shots in, and this is the only picture that has the image of this girl. And it's a second floor, and there was no stairs or anything like that, but you could see her. And there was a little girl that about her age. I mean, to me, she looks like about 8 or 9 in this, who dress caught fire in the hearth, and she literally burned to death. And we believe that this is her. Now, if you look, you could see her hair. You could see her face. You could see the collar, the white collar, the dress. You could see her hand resting on whatever that is that was matrixed. It's just remarkable. And it's the only one. And I have a whole series of this window where she appeared.
And it kind of almost looks like
Keriann.
flames around her.
Yeah, yeah.
Could be
Yeah.
flames, sure, yeah. Keriann, just a quick side note. I went to a memorial service for someone passed related to family, and one of the ladies that was there, she she does what Diane does at Longwood. She does the historic cooking, like the Revolutionary War.
Right.
She does the hearth cooking.
Mhm.
And so there was a fellow that was sitting next to her, and I mentioned Diane. She says, "Oh yeah, we're friends."
That's so funny.
Diane at Longwood it's such
Yeah,
a
it's a
small
small world.
universe, I'll tell you.
That's true.
All right, let me see what we have next is, okay, now I'm going to get into the recordings. So the first one
Okay.
is, this is
Let
before,
me see. Oh,
yeah, so it's a MP3, it's an
so
audio
we're gonna
file.
see if this works.
And its number
Because
should
it
be-
might not. So
Yeah.
hold on one second. I know some of them do, but 12, 13, and
Sure.
14 are a little bit different. And let's see.
Okay,
Now, are
yeah,
these,
they're like
are you playing the white noise?
yeah, let me
ones,
set,
Joe,
yeah,
or-
yeah. So before you start, if it starts, the first one is from Country House. Spirits, we were walking up the stairs, and you hear this kind of this island accent, this voice say, "Come," like,
So these
come
were
to
really
Jamaica.
early on. This was the first ghost
Yeah.
book.
Okay. So
it's
hopefully
white
everyone
noise.
can hear this. You guys let me know.
yeah.
if you
So
can
it
hear
should play in like media player or some sort of any kind of sound player, audio player.
So sorry, I went into the next one. I heard come. Did you guys hear anything?
No.
We did not.
Okay.
No. Oh, you have to enable the sound from the
I don't
sharing
think-
the screen.
I don't
With
think I
Zoom that you
can.
have to.
I'm so sorry. I don't think that. I think I would have had to load it ahead of time into the media here on the platform I'm using now. So I don't think we can
Oh,
do
okay.
12, 13, or 14, unfortunately.
Okay.
do
All right. So
15,
I'll just talk
however.
about them.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
There we go.
so we had 3 white noise. So it was really funny. The first one was the spirit saying, "Come, come up the stairs."
Yeah.
The second one was Keriann's getting these EVPs. She's getting pretty good. I'm in competition with her now. And we were at Katie's. We were at Villa Restaurant in Hampton Bays, and while we're talking about ghosts and spirits, and when she's doing the interview, you hear this guy say, "I'm the photographer," and it's really clear.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with that. And then we went to Katie's Bar in Smithtown, which is a very famous haunted place. That's where you see beer steins go flying off the bar, and all kinds of people seeing all kinds of things there. And Brian, who's the owner, he was talking about the ghosts and say, if a ghost comes in here, I can beat him up. I'm not afraid of, getting Casper in here. I can handle him. And right after this whole diatribe that he does this whole thing, you hear this voice say, "You win."
I mean, clear as day. I think we
Yeah,
have
clear
these
as
on the website under
we do.
I forget which book.
Yeah, they're under I think they're under the haunted Long Island, haunted historic haunts of Long Island. Possibly. But they're there. They're up there.
Okay, so people could
for
look
the
at
audience,
that.
yeah, anyone, all of these will be up there. So you have trouble hearing or seeing anything, they will be
Okay.
up there.
The next one should play. We'll
Okay,
see.
so let
It
me
might
set
not
that
again.
up. Yeah. So, okay, the next one is, all right, so this is a ghost box recording, and this is at Longwood. And what's really funny about this one, I'm explaining about them being on the other side, and then the spirit says other side. And then Carrie, there's this guy. You want to talk about the man in black, and then I'll talk about the way you ask if that's the.
Joe had mentioned about this woman Diane that we know, and she does reenactments and things at Longwood and is in charge of the educational programs and everything. So she had told us about this man in black that hangs around, and we think that it has a very long history with a lot of family members. So we think it's a family member that had crossed, but I didn't tell Joe about this guy. We found out, I'm trying to think exactly how it went.
Yeah, so we got
Joe,
there.
We arrived. That's right.
We arrived. We were walking towards the porch to go inside.
And you had said something.
I said, who's the man in black? I see a man in black on the porch.
And she almost
And,
fell on the floor.
Yeah, it was this total mediumship hit.
That's right.
It's like,
I didn't know about it ahead of time. That's right. That's when we found out. She told us about who she saw.
that was the famous
And,
ghost there.
So yeah, and we
Yeah,
have
so Keriann asks, "Are you the one that's at the port? Are you the man in black?" Basically, and then you get this like real New York, like Queens or Brooklyn answer. He goes, "You're talking to him," and I mean, you cannot make this stuff up.
Right.
So let's see if that plays.
All right, I'm actually going to do this a different way. I think this will work better.
You gonna zoom it? Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's good.
Do you remain here in the house?
No, they're on the other side. Let me define that. So you're past, obviously. On the other side. You hear it? Say the other side.
Who's the gentleman that's outside by the front porch?
You're talking to him.
Now, so
Wow.
that's a perfect example. So the spirits, some words off the whoever was talking, and they were able, with the combination of noise and the background and the voices, were able to put this whole sentence together. You're talking to them. I mean, think
love
about
that
that. I mean, it's an intelligent answer. There's no way. It's not whispery. The ghost box is great, and there's so many types of ghost boxes now. You don't even have to use the radio. They have synthesized sound that's like a speech chip or a sample sound, and a
I
dictionary.
hope the
with
listeners
spirits.
heard that because I heard it clearly.
Yeah.
so-
Do you have anyone in the listeners that can chat or say, "Yeah, we heard that" or anything?
Yeah,
have
if any
like
of you
a
guys want to let
feedback.
us know. They should have, though, because this time I loaded it up into the platform before playing it.
That's
All right.
All
You
right,
want
the
to play that
sound
one
is
more
already
time
created.
and just?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you remain here in the house?
No, they're on the other side. Let me define that. So you're past, obviously. On the other side. You hear it? Say the other side.
Who's the gentleman that's outside by the front porch?
You're talking to him.
That's very clear. You're talking to them.
Right.
I feel like, too, did someone say right when you said you're on the other side or something?
Oh, we'd have to listen to it again to hear. But
Yeah. Oh, there's a
sometimes
lot.
you pick
There's
up more
yeah.
things.
Yeah. There's
And that's why,
a
like
lot
Joe
of,
said, we try to repeat what we hear so you could hear
Right.
the recording that, this wasn't made up. Like we didn't put it in after the fact. You hear us saying what we just heard.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's right. Now
I
the
love
next
that.
one is a little longer. The next one was actually not. The one after that is an actual formal ghost box Q&A with the spirits. But this one, we were walking around. We're downstairs. Keriann wanted to get orbs. She says, "Please, spirits, give us orbs. We're going to go up to the attic," and we got orbs. But on the bottom, you'll see me put these words. I heard responses to us, like in the beginning. I said, I think someone said that they're here. They said me, I'm here, me, and you'll hear me. You'll hear someone say it's me, and then there's a place where they say we're going to go upstairs and they say cool, and Keriann and I heard cool. So this is us just kind of walking around downstairs talking about what we're going to do. The spirits are answering us and commenting as we are. Let's see if that plays.
All right.
You have this on recording?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Oh my goodness. Caleb Brewster, see, that's.
I'm looking for them. Oh, I just heard someone whisper in my right ear, like me, like that,
Oh, really?
right in my right ear. I felt my eardrum actually vibrating. By the way, I think your father's here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Caleb?
Okay, I think he's here.
Caleb, are you here with us? Are you happy that we've written about the spy ring?
They just said ring. Did you hear that?
I heard that, yeah. Are you glad this house is preserved? Can you help us get some orbs or phenomenon in the attic?
I think he said okay.
we'd appreciate it so we could include this in another book down the road. Super.
Super.
Okay, so we'll go with your lead. I said cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's the ghost box down there.
And this was the house where we showed you that first image of the orbs. That was the Brewster house. But that was really early on ghost box recordings. It's a little bit harder to hear on those, but that shows you how it's evolved as we play some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Very
And-
direct, like question, answer, and
Yeah, it's a regular conversation. That's what I mean. And when you're doing being intuitive, doing mediumship, we're picking up stuff, we're responding, we're feeling things. This is what it would be. The ghost box gives you the opportunity. What would it be if you were actually talking with a speaker and a telephone? So it's sort of a telephone to the other side. Now, we have one more example of ghost box. This one is one of our more, it's early on, but it's a full conversation. And I started, right, Keriann, I started putting a transcript up so that people could follow along. And you see, it's just a conversational thing. It's really fun. And this one, we're talking about Caleb Brewster, right? You want to set that up a little bit?
So this is the one of the newer ones that we have in our PowerPoint.
No,
I'll
this
let
was.
you explain because I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, sure. This is still at Brewster. We actually did the ghost box recording upstairs, and
Was that when he said Caleb?
Yes.
Caleb here.
And he says,
all right. So this is one of our newer ones for the new book.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, okay.
So is there anything you want to tell us about this house as we walk around? Got it. This is where the British sat? We're using the ghost box. Play with the scanner. My name is Joe. What's your name? Robert? Is anyone from the Brewster family here? Is Caleb Brewster here? Amazing orbs upstairs in the attic of the Brewster house. We're done. Yeah. Oh God. Is it that painful? Anybody else have fun?
Wow. I
Isn't
mean,
that crazy?
it can't be an accident, you know? It's like one word, one word, one word, one
No,
word, and then it
no.
stops.
And you
And
see that
people
last
will-
one, Caleb. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, people will ask sometimes, well, how come if it's a man, why is there a female voice or whatever?
Right.
Because remember, they're using what's on the radio at that time. So if it's a
Right.
female's voice, that's what's going to come through.
And one of them said, "Let me talk," and then
Yeah.
full
Kenneth
name,
Barton.
Right? Kenneth Barton. Yeah.
Kenneth
Yeah,
Barton.
and there
Yeah,
was
we
that
get a lot-
British accent with that one.
That's
So
right.
I don't know if that was someone
let me
British. Yeah.
King's English. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Keriann, she doesn't know this, but what happened with the other videos, we had the PowerPoint presentation. I wanted to play from maybe, some of the other locations, but because they were in PowerPoint, we had played the soundbite and we had transcript on a slide. So for me to have made that into a movie, would have taken several hours.
So at least this is a
we
little
couldn't do it.
bit.
So this
of a
is what I was
sampler.
able.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, if you go on to ghostsoflongisland.com, look for Haunted Long Island Mysteries. Scroll down and you'll see a big button there that says EVPs Joe Giaquinto. You can't miss it. Click that. It brings you right to Joe's site and right to the EVP. So you could listen to everything that's
Yeah,
in the book.
you can listen to them, and you can click on yeah, they have
And the other
the
thing, if
full
anyone is interested, I mean, you could get the books on Amazon and at various locations on Long Island. But if you would like a personalized and signed copy of Haunted Long Island Mysteries or any of my books that are currently out, you can also get them through the website, and you'll get them within like a day or so. And then you could read along and listen to the EVPs on the computer.
I love that
It's really fun, and we just had these amazing conversations. We did Miller Ridge Inn for this past book, and I mean,
which is a very large
unedited
restaurant.
Right. Yeah, it's the oldest restaurant in the United States, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is we did the Ghost Box upstairs, we did it downstairs. We were in a room, bridal suite, where Keriann, we had a ghost meter, which is another tool, which will beep. It'll beep when there's an energy, there's some sort of magnetic, frequency interruption in that area. And Keriann was in there with her camera and everything. All of a sudden, it starts beeping. It's like, oh, they're here, and then it stops.
Yeah.
But we
and
did
you caught
the Ghost
that on
Box.
video.
We did.
Caught that on video.
Yeah, and we were upstairs, and we went with the Ghost Box downstairs. We met with Elena down there, one of the staff members, who had her own crazy experiences with apparitions. And we had this like 8 or 9 minute recording of this conversation. We had singing.
That was the first assignment too for the new book.
It was the first time we had the British, we had people talking with the King's English, and it was great. It was really. We even had a guy that was murdered, not at the restaurant, but he was a patron of the restaurant.
Patron, yeah.
And he just didn't show up for a long time, and he got worried, so he went to his house and found he had been murdered. But he actually came through too, and said it was a cold case and everything, and to move on. And but he enjoyed the laughter. He told us he enjoyed the restaurant because it brought him a lot of joy to go and be there with other people and have a nice dining experience. So very interesting, just really fun. So
yeah.
I have a few random questions for you guys. I don't know if you can answer them, but give me what you got. First of all, do you think that animals could come through in this and have a voice, have to speak with us?
Keriann, you want to take that? Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I don't know about the speaking, but I can say that animals definitely can communicate and do. I mentioned the 10 types of ghosts. Animal ghosts are one of them. You may notice in your own homes, if you have pets or if you've had multiple pets, some who have passed. I've experienced this in my own house where I've lost a dog and introduced another dog months later, and that dog can see where the other dog used to be, or the dog came for a visit. So they, like people, will stay with us on our journey. They do cross to the other side. I've actually heard that that's part of the process when we die, that our pets greet us to make the transition easier. They do have souls. So for all you animal lovers out there, it's a great thing. And animals are very sensitive too, right, Joe? That they can pick up on other animals' energies.
As far as the communication, they don't speak to you, at least in my experience, they don't speak to you necessarily in a human voice. But they do speak to you, and you can. There was a horse. He was at where Sundance Stables was. Where we saw the rider with the green orb. Down the street, there's another stable, and the lady that owned that stable, she had a problem with one of her primary horses. The horse, she could never ride the horse. She was trying to sell this horse for like a couple of years, and she asked me if I could talk to the horse, so I did. And basically, as soon as I talked to the horse, again, he didn't speak the talking horse like that TV show, but I got a sense of what the problem was. He just didn't like the owner. And I told him he has to behave himself, and he's got to act like he's a saleable horse so that he can go on to greener pastures and be happy with a new owner. And I told her that she was going to sell the horse within 6 months, basically by May or June of that year. And she got a buyer, a guy out west, and he loves the horse. She finally sold the horse, and made her money
Wow,
on
you never
that.
told me that story.
No,
Joe.
I never
didn't know
did.
that.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
that was
but another time-
Breezy Wood Stables.
Yeah, I was at like a party, and I
Mm-hmm.
was photographing. It was, I think my sister-in-law was there. It was her birthday, whatever it was. And there were a lot of people that we didn't know wherever we were. And I had taken a picture, and behind her on the wall or by a window was a huge orb. And when I zoomed in, it had a perfect image of a dog's face.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
obviously there was someone there whose dog was paying a visit. And so it is comforting. A lot of people have told me, including members of my own family. I know a lot of people sleep with their dogs and cats. And after the pet has passed, several people have told me about having that sensation of the dog jumping on the bed or the cat and doing that circular motion that animals do before they lay down right up against you. So it should bring people comfort to know that our animals do go to the other side. They wait for us, and you can communicate with them.
Yeah, and they also, in a reading, they will come through.
Yes.
The last
they do
lady
come
that I
through
read,
readings.
yeah, I was doing a reading with about 11 people in a private home, and the last woman who was wheelchair bound, she never wasn't able to walk. She had, I said, you have two dogs, and I said, they're saying they're golden. It was a golden retriever and golden lab. She says, yeah. She had a golden lab, I think, who died, and she has a golden retriever. So they will talk, as Keriann said. They will an orb or a photo, or you'll get a sense of them. And Keriann, she's a horse lover. Right? You owned a horse, Fox Run.
Right.
And,
Yeah, I've had my
so
horse.
there was
and
a
other
bond
dogs
that-
come through,
yeah,
and cats.
Yeah, so there was a connection to the soul. Good question, whoever came up with that.
I love that. Well, and then what about, do you think that you could, especially with permission, perhaps like call the sort of consciousness of a living person and have them affect the ghost box, or have a conversation on that level? Is that crazy?
Could I, you mean, do living people also give us messages?
Well, specifically through the ghost box, I guess I was wondering, because I do think people are psychic and can share, messages that way.
Let me take that question.
Okay.
Yeah, so think of this is, Keriann, chime in if you have a different thought or you want to add to it. But I describe us on this earthly plane as basically spirits with a rent-a-car body. Okay. And sometimes you get a body that's perfect. It goes 400,000 miles. Another time it's a lemon right off the assembly line. We all different shapes, size, colors, but we all basically are humans that are using this organic body. Even if a person has dementia, how much they can't communicate, they're deaf and dumb, blind, their spirit's fine. So it's just the body can't work properly to communicate with the outside world. So people do talk all the time. And yes, they could come through on a ghost box. We were doing recordings once at a house, and I said, your mom is trying to reach you. And I think we had a recording or something. And she said, my mom's alive. I said, yeah, but she's trying to reach you. She's been trying to reach you all day. So she called her mom up and said, oh my God, I've been trying to reach you all day. What's wrong with your phone? So we're spirits. In the same reason that you walk down the street on a dark night in an alley and somebody passes by and you get a creepy feeling and you turn around and see if the person's following you. That same primal instinct, that's the ability, even though that person's not dead, you still can pick up a sense of what they're about. They're giving you some sort of a message non-verbally. So, Keriann, do you want to add to that? Or
No, I think that's a good answer, Joe.
I love that. Okay, my final weird question is, I've heard from someone that I should leave out food for one of the ghosts that is seemingly connected with this house I'm in. And I still haven't done it, and maybe I'm just a big asshole, but should I? Do you think that they want something like that? I always just think, that seems like a waste.
No, I've had people ask me things like that before. They can't eat anymore.
Yeah,
as much as maybe they like food, but they will use food to get a point across. For instance, Joe and I were in Raynham Hall in historic Oyster Bay, and we smelled the smell of apple pie cooking. They can put across smells. People claim that they smell food around their own homes and things like that. And they say, oh, that reminds me of Aunt Jane or so-and-so. And so from the other side, they can use food and smells of food to help us understand that they are there. But as far as eating food,
No.
not so much.
Now, but I do want to say, the spirits they do things to cause us to do things. I have this thing with car horn beeps, where I'll say something about a ghost box and a car horn for no reason. Someone will start beeping their car horn. Always 2 beeps. I actually started putting a whole recording together because I had so many of these. And then I go to Raynham Hall and we do like a tour or investigation. And as soon as I start talking about a car horn or a car alarm would go off. So
Right.
it's not that they actually, somebody like the food, no, they're not actually pressing the car horn, but they're causing this situation where somebody feels the urge to honk a horn or puts them in a certain where the horn gets honked. So again, it's not that, like Keriann said, they can't write a Post-it note, they can't eat food, but they can create a situation where somebody might do that for them in the physical. It's not possession, it's not evil, it's not manipulation. It's just we're all interconnected. And so we all interact with each other in different ways to help each other along. So if they can't push the button, we will push the button for them. Again, it's not a evil thing. No. It's no different than if you see something, a garbage on the ground, and you feel in a conservation mood, you pick up the garbage, you throw it in the garbage. One last quick one like that. My dad and I were standing in front of our house once. It was a very windy day. And my dad was a righty. I miss him a lot. He's on the other side. And we saw this garbage bag in the wind kind of floating down the street in front of our property. And I said, Dad, do you want me to go get the garbage bag? And of course, he being a funny guy, he said, no, it's heading towards our neighbor. Let him pick it up. Just then, a gust of wind picked up the bag. It went up in the air, about 30 feet in the air. It started circling as if it was coming into the airport for landing. And it flew near the garage, right next to our garbage pail outside.
Oh, wow.
And you cannot make this up. So they can manipulate the wind. They can't carry the garbage, but they can manipulate the wind that it's sailing around in the skies. So I hope that sheds some light on that. But
yeah, I love that. Well, I just sent the intention to that ghost. I just said, hey, I hope you feel loved enough to receive the energy of someone making you eggs and bacon.
Oh, that's great.
I'm
that
not
sounds good.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I think we should all go to the diner and that. We'll be in Colorado Springs in about 3 hours.
Right. Awesome. Well, I know I've got the sites below me for both of you guys. People can click over there. They can go see your books. They can go see some of these EVPs and other things that you've got going on. But I just want to give you guys another chance to invite anybody to anywhere, do anything. I know you've got this tour coming up. Is that just kind of in your area? Or is this larger?
It's just on Long Island because the books obviously take place on Long Island. But for those of you who may be listening from other states or other countries, it's still fun to check out these books to see what Long Island is about. Because the one thing I find is that people think of Long Island as being the home of the ghostly Amityville horror. And what we've tried to do is really showcase Long Island as a place of history, our Native American past, the American Revolutionary War and beyond. And it's a very spiritual place as well. So even if you're not from around the area, the books are very fascinating. And like I said, they're interactive where you can read along, see the transcripts in the book, the photographs, and then go to Joe's website for the listening of the EVPs. So again, they are available on my website along with a couple of my other titles. If you're interested in learning more about that, I can send out, personalized and signed copies of the book that you can order directly through the website.
Yeah, the books are really great. They're a lot of fun.
And if you are on Long Island, check out the book tour. You'll see the list of events. And like I said, Joe is with me for most of them. Joe is with me. We have a lot. And
I would just say, if anyone, I do phone readings. So if you go to my website and you're interested in, again, going to one of our events, or you want to go to one of my interactive events where I actually go to, also I do a group reading or message. We do it at real places, not just, we just don't walk around the neighborhood, talk about, we actually you can join and go and participate in one of my events.
How can people contact you, Joe?
You go to your website and click on the link to the EVPs, or you can go right to my website, which is joegmediumpi.com. It's like Magnum PI. There's a story there, Carrie. You want to tell us about
That's
why
a
I came
story
up
for
with
another day.
It is, yeah. We had a very
Next
interesting
show.
event. Yes. But anyway, thank you. Yeah, joegmediumpi.com.
All right.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. It's been really nice to talk to both of you guys. Do you want to share just
Same
what your
here.
final thoughts or messages or anything you want to share with anybody out there before we say goodnight? And maybe, Keriann, you can start.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say, you could be listening to this and thinking this is all crazy. All I'm saying was not, again, I mentioned earlier, we're not trying to prove or disprove anything,
Right.
but just to be open, because there are so many things that we have learned. And when I lecture, I give some fun stories and take people back in time to the 1800s. If someone brought out a television in the 1800s, you would never have been able to comprehend that. So it just shows that as human beings, we don't have to know everything. And as time goes on, we're breaking through that veil a little bit, and communication is possible. Our loved ones are where they're supposed to be if they were good people. And they wait for us to be finished with our life, and we will all meet together. It should be very positive. And I know it's difficult. I've had a tremendous amount of grief in my own life, especially the past 2 years of losing people. But if you try to think of it as that they're just in another room and you can't see them. I mean, if someone was in Africa and you're in the United States, you know they're there even though you can't see them. So
That's
if
right.
you
That's
try
a
to
good,
have that, I
good
think
point.
it will help you on your way. But just, be careful if you do this work. We don't believe in doing Ouija boards or anything of that nature. So just, do reputable or speak with reputable people, but do know that communication with your loved ones is possible and that you will see them again.
Yeah, and I think just a quick note. I couldn't say any better. Keriann, thing about Keriann, she just has a great sense of the whole mission and what's life's about. So I've learned a lot from her, and it's fun working with her. So it's great when she says, "Joe, we gotta go somewhere." I'm thinking about a book project.
Yeah.
Even when she said to me that night in 2005, she says, "You want to help me with it?" I said, "Sure."
Yeah.
And I usually like, I don't want to do it. What should I do this? She might be crazy, right? It's serious.
Exactly.
But I just said,
Consider
sure, I'll do
that.
it. I mean, I think, I just walked in there and I said, sure. And then I got home and I'm like, I'm going to help somebody write a book. What am I doing?
Right.
So
Joe, by the way, has written the forewords for the last 2 books. He has written the foreword.
Yeah, I do some writing.
He's
and
also a very good writer.
Yeah, she quotes me liberally in some of the conversations. The books are great because they're funny.
Right.
They're funny. We go back and forth, and the spirits are always amazing. So definitely, guys, go get the book. And some of her other books, they're out of print, but I think that you can get them on Kindle.
Yeah, there's a couple of others. I have a historic
Yeah.
crime book that's out there. I have, which we talked about, Lindsay, the last time
Yeah.
on the show, my novel, The Metal, that has to do with Padre Pio, the saint who bore the stigmata. That's my only work of fiction. So check out the website. Check out Joe's website for the EVPs and his readings and things.
And Lindsay, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting
Always
me
fun.
on. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Great
been
show.
amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I do recommend that. The Metal was very fun for me, and the other books sound amazing as well. I'm going to have to grab some of those. So, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. And this has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to the author touched by miracles, Keriann Brosky. Keriann, thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Lindsay. It was great. Great evening.
And also according to the psychic, medium, and ghost hunter, Joe Giaquinto. And Joe, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having us on.
All right, very good. And all kinds of deception can happen when we're looking past the veil between the living and the dead. But we must also embrace ourselves against our own psychology, our deep desire to not have lost those we love most, our biases and deepest desires, our projections and delusions. But this isn't only true of those encounters from beyond. This is true of every moment of our life. As much discernment as we bring to anything else, we should bring to this field. And this means that we can also bring as much trust. You know the feeling and the energy of that which does not align with goodness, truth, and beauty, and you know the feeling of that which does. Trust yourself, and until you do, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
I heard the Bilderbergers called you. And I was like, hello? Hello? And ain't nobody answering shit, man. I mean, for real, man. I must have hung up. The phone rang again. And I was like, hello? Ain't nobody even answering, dog. Shit, man. They tapping my telephone. It's really the real when you step to the plate. And it ain't too late to change your ways of being fake. Humans create with creativity, so make what you create to shine through. All niggas want to do is shine. Make your view rhyme from the deaf to the blind. For those left behind, I crept and I climbed to the top of my mind. I found I've been taught to be conformed, and I was never warned of the signs. Crimes committed as an adolescent. Now I'm trapped through the system stressing with aggression and emotive, through passion and emotion to set the truth in motion. They gave me Zola for a rainy day, and they gave me Zyprexa to sleep my life away. Society's labeled a man to be bipolar. Might as well gave me heroin and Coca-Cola. This is how Western medicine work. This is also how Western religions work. And Americans work 9 to 5, not asking the questions of how, when, where, what, why. I remain on the quest, thirsty for salvation. With a taste of blood, where the fallen warriors dream of surviving this flood of chaos. Those who continue to judge a book by its cover are way off. Breaking these laws of a scar prison, reminiscing of pain, take niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chances of life to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scar prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chances of life to revive an immortal lie.
We're conditioned to be housebroken and weekend. Labor all week, pay favor with the rest, drown away the weekend. Wires and voltages set strategically to dampen chakras. Make sure to take those prescriptions given to you by the doctor. Wash it down with contaminated water. Worship a holy father, eat trash food, remain drained from the slaughter. Mother is out the Illuminati's daughter. Through molestation, unnoticed by the blind mind and every nation. Not allowed to know God is present in each and every individual. Ancient truth forgotten except the Bohemian Grove rituals. Inbred bloodlines created unruly ruling class of elites cold as reptiles. The awoken even see the signs on the streets. Encryptions pass off fiction and paranoia reaction. 33s and bows with skulls are laughing right now with Kennedy's assassin. 2 pillars burning. History repeats as I babble on truth. Write down our faith for centuries. I change their plans when I'm up in the booth.
Everlasting presence of life got me up in the night, not knowing if I'm wrong or right. Something within me tells me to fight, and it's like I'm trying to find the true nature of being God-like versus religious beliefs, which indeed tells me I'm doomed from day one out the womb. They want us to be consumed with fear, with negative thoughts engineered to fear God, and that's the fear one's up, and that's real. You tell me that I'm imperfect. How is that when everything's for a reason? You forget that everything is meant to be, but they got us withering away, not knowing sacred geometry, which degrades philosophy of every soul, in which they try to control your mind with limitations, over exceeding your expectations. You'll be considered an outcast with lacerations, so I continue to master patience, creating ways to make it through the Piscean age that's getting close to the Aquarian stage. As I stand strong on my God-given rod, it's my life against all lies to penetrate these imprisoned walls that creates flaws and false laws. So y'all niggas better recognize before you die, before you had the chance to survive. And that's right, 3 bars of a scar prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody shut. Chance to survive, to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scar prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive, to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scar prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive, to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these Bars of a scar prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive, to revive an immortal lie, lie.